China's space agency has found live space material on the moon. Since it was founded in 1993, the China National Space Administration has been known to make several exploits into space, especially with a particular interest in the moon. In a recent mission to the moon, an astronaut ventured into an unexplored part of the moon where a space item was found. This discovery is quite phenomenal due to its properties in reaction to certain scientific equipment when it was brought to Earth for analysis. What could this new discovery be? Could it be an alien material? Join us as we explore China's terrifying new discovery on the far side of the moon. Over the past 3 decades, the People's Republic of China has been well invested in the exploration of the final frontier. From constructing their own international space station to making plans about a lunar landing, China's space agency is quickly becoming recognized for incredible space exploration achievements. The China National Space Administration took a step further ahead of other space agencies when a team of Chinese scientists recently announced that they have discovered a new lunar mineral. This mineral was found among some samples obtained while on a recent mission to the moon, and it is now added to the body of knowledge about the Earth satellite. It is a great milestone achievement as well because that has been the focus of earlier space exploration. This discovery made by the Chinese scientists is a single crystal of a new phosphate mineral named Changasite Y. It was given this name while scientists were analyzing particles of lunar basalt or hardened fragments of lava. This discovery was quite a surprise because it was made out of curiosity from the Chang'e 5 mission that was launched on November 24, 2020 and brought back roughly 2 kilograms of lunar samples. Changasite Y is the 6th mineral gotten from the moon by humanity and the first new lunar mineral discovered by China. This makes it the 3rd country in the world after the United States and Russia to discover a lunar mineral. China is also the first country to have achieved this feat in the past 4 decades. Changasite Y was found by scientists and researchers at the Beijing Research Institute of Uranium Geology during the analysis of lunar basalt particles obtained by the Chang'e 5 mission. The announcement about this new mineral was jointly made by the China Atomic Energy Authority and the China National Space Administration in Beijing. Even the Commission on Nomenclature, New Minerals and Classification, a body of the International Mineralogical Association charged with the naming of minerals and their introduction, confirmed Changasite Y as a new mineral. Chemically, Changasite Y seems to be associated with the more common phosphate mineral merillite, which can be found in lunar and meteorite samples and has also been discovered on Earth. Phosphate minerals are categorized into several groups. The merillite group is further grouped into the merillite and wicklockite divisions. According to scientists and researchers at the Beijing Research Institute of Uranium Geology, Changasite Y is among the baryonite subgroup that only appears in meteorites and on the moon. The Changasite Y sample, a single crystalline particle with a width of only 10 microns, was manually separated from over 140,000 similar-sized particles. After they were separated, they were then analyzed with the use of X-ray diffraction to find out their crystal structure. The researchers at the Beijing Research Institute of Uranium Geology have also discovered that Changasite Y also consists of helium-3, a stable isotope of helium which is believed to be a valuable fuel for nuclear fusion. Its extraction will help give room for scientific data for lunar resource evaluation and exploration, which also shows that these samples are not only named and introduced, but they're also analyzed to make more discoveries about our planet. James Head, a professor of geological sciences at Brown University, confirmed in a statement. Head noted that lunar samples are perceived as the coin of the realm, which can be used to understand our planet's evolution. He also stated examples talking about the samples that had been gotten decades ago by NASA. These were samples obtained during the times of the Apollo moon landings and by the lunar robotic landers of the Soviet Union, and they have helped scientists to understand the moon's origination better. Scientists noted that these discoveries, together with the outcome of recent computer modeling, are in support of a theory that the moon was formed out of the debris left from a collision impact between Earth and a Mars-sized planetary body. Professor Head also noted that till today, most of the lunar sampling has been from the hemisphere that faces Earth, the central part of the near side of the Moon. According to Clive Neal, a professor of planetary geology at the University of Notre Dame, he noted that these new minerals obtained from the Moon are not immensely abundant, but samples from other geologically interesting sites, especially from younger terrain on the planet, could help give scientists a wider understanding and insight into how the Moon evolved. Also, the Moon is still revealing some interesting secrets, so it is proper that they're studied efficiently. However, there are upcoming expeditions that we will be seeing in the coming years by the United States and China, and they're targeting unexplored territory on the Moon. The People's Republic of China is well on its way with space exploration, even though it recently completed the Chang'e 5 mission. This is the fifth lunar exploration mission of the Chinese Lunar Exploration Program, and China's first lunar sample return mission. China launched Chang'e 5 and 23 days later, it recovered a return capsule that houses samples of what was eventually discovered to have the Chang'e Site Y, a new moon mineral. And now they have decided to continue their space exploration with the Chang'e 5's mission backup, Chang'e 6, which plans to send a similar spacecraft to collect material from the South Pole Aitken Basin, located on the far side of the Moon, in 2024. The chief engineer of the China Lunar Exploration and Space Engineering Center, Hu Hao, made an announcement regarding the Chang'e 6 mission. Hu Hao, the chief engineer of the China Lunar Exploration and Space Engineering Center, announced in a statement released on China's National Space Day in April this year that the Chang'e 6 probe, which would comprise an orbiter, lunar ascent vehicle, lander, and re-entry capsule, will be focused at the South Pole Aitken Basin. The South Pole Aitken Basin is a massive old impact crater that is 1,550 miles in length and spans almost a quarter of the Moon's far side. The impact basin is also believed and regarded to be the oldest basin on the Moon, as it contains vital clues and proof about the history of the Moon and the solar system. Initially, the United States National Academy of Sciences once proposed a similar mission to lunar missions as well, targeting the South Pole Aitken Basin as a key area and research interest. It was announced in its Vision and Voyages for Planetary Science in the decade 2013 to 2022 report, which was released in 2011, but somehow China beat them to it with the Chang'e 4 spacecraft. It was the worldwide first accomplishment in lunar exploration, and a lot of people did not believe it until the China National Space Administration released the first close-up photos of the surface on the far side of the Moon, taken by the Chang'e 4 spacecraft shortly after landing. China's Chang'e 4 spacecraft took off from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in Sichuan Province and landed in the Von Karman crater located in the South Pole Aitken Basin. The basin was possibly formed due to an impact made by a giant asteroid that could have brought material from the Moon's upper mantle to the surface. The reason why attention is now focused on this part of the Moon is so scientists will be able to study these samples. It would also give scientists the chance to discover more about the Moon's composition and interior. The Moon's far side has a much older and thicker crust, as well as being potholed rough by more and deeper craters in comparison to the near side. The near side has large dark plains called maria. They are formed by ancient lava flows which have erased a huge deal of the cratering on the near side of the Moon, so the analysis and observations done on the far side of the Moon would give clues to the processes behind the differences. However, Chinese authorities did not reveal the precise landing site within the South Pole Aitken Basin, which stretches from the Aitken crater at 18 degrees south all the way down to the lunar South Pole. It also has several large craters such as Apollo, which could offer flat yet surprising landing areas. The Chang'e 4's lander is also equipped with cameras in order to observe the Moon's far side terrain, and also a low-frequency spectrometer, which is used to study solar bursts. The rover has a panoramic camera as well, including a spectrometer for discovering surface materials, and a ground-penetrating radar to examine subsurface structures. Countries like Germany, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, and the Netherlands have contributed payloads that will study radiation and use low-frequency radio astronomy. These tools would be used to find faint signals roaming around in the cosmos since the inception of the universe's first stars, among other things. The lander also carries a minuscule biosphere created by Chinese universities that will observe the low-gravity interaction of a number of plants and silkworms. However, arriving at the far side and studying it poses a couple of engineering challenges. This is a fact that kept all 27 previous landings on the near side. One of the problems is the fact that direct communications with spacecraft located on the far side are blocked by the moon itself. But China was not having it and also wasn't ready to give up on their lunar mission, so they had a communications relay satellite called Futureunity constructed and installed to solve this problem. Futureunity was constructed into a loop located 65,000 kilometers beyond the moon at the Earth-Moon Lagrange Point 2. It is a gravitationally balanced location from which the communications relay satellite can transmit signals to both Earth and the moon's far side. So far, the relay system is working well with all communications made from China to the far side of the moon going through. China has come a long way with its adventures in space, including its lunar program missions. The lunar program started with orbiting observatories, Chang'e 1 and 2 in 2007 and 2010 respectively, before kicking it up a notch with a near-side lander, Chang'e 3 in 2013. All the missions are named after a Chinese moon goddess. And the country kept it up with more challenges, such as returning samples from the moon, which gave them the recent achievement of a new mineral, and you can best believe they are going to keep up with more challenges, and that comes with the Chang'e 6. This is where China would be studying possible manned moon landings, slated to happen sometime after 2024. With plans for the Chang'e 6 mission currently in progress, it will also come with a number of payloads from international partners. Countries like France will join the party by providing a detection instrument named Dawn for observing the element radon and studying its outgases from the lunar regolith. Italy is also part of the race, as the country's National Institute of Nuclear Physics will provide a laser retroreflector, an instrument used to bounce light back to its origin. This will also allow scientists to measure the time taken for the journey and convert the information into a precise distance. An example is the Apollo 11, 14, and 15 missions, which all carried laser-ranging retroreflectors. The chief engineer of the China Lunar Exploration and Space Engineering Center, Hu Hao, also made a statement about countries like Russia and Sweden that have made more contributions towards the Chang'e 6 mission. The joint China-Russia instrument will find the likely presence of surface water ice, while the Swedish contribution would focus on discovering negative ions. Chang'e 5 was China's first lunar sample mission, and Chang'e 6 is going to make more exploits as the mission's backup. But in some ways, the United States is not totally happy about it. From the set missions planned by China and the United States, it's clear that both countries are locked in a space race. At the rate at which China's space agency is ongoing, a NASA top official has warned that the United States has to watch out so that its rival does not gain a foothold and try to take over lunar resources. The assessment came from the administrator of NASA, Bill Nelson, a former astronaut and Florida senator, who went on to announce that China could finally claim to own the moon's resource-rich areas. The space race between both countries is growing tenser by the minute, and the next 2 years could determine which country gets an advantage. It is a fact we're in a space race, Nelson noted in the statement, and it is true that we better watch out that they don't get to a place on the moon under the guise of scientific research, and it is not beyond the realm of possibility that they say, "Keep out, we're here, this is our territory." Nelson cited Chinese aggression over islands in the South China Sea, where Beijing has created military bases as proof of its territorial ambition. If you doubt that, look at what they did with the Spratly Islands, he concluded. Last year, China's space program came up with an Earth-orbiting space station and has mounted several lunar orbiting and sample retrieving missions. A third phase of the program to establish an autonomous lunar research station near the moon's south pole is scheduled for 2025. And in December, the Chinese government offered its vision for a crewed lunar landing, space transportation, infrastructure, and space governance. China has also announced the goal of landing taikonauts on the moon by the end of this decade. NASA, meanwhile, recently completed the 26-day Artemis 1 mission to take pictures of the lunar surface. Future missions are designed toward establishing more activity on the moon. However, the US is also focused on Mars. US military brass has also sounded alarmed over Chinese militarization of space and attendant security concerns. It's entirely possible they could catch up and surpass us, Space Force Lieutenant General Nina Magno said on a visit to Australia. The progress they've made has been stunningly fast. But Beijing has rejected some US interpretations of the motives behind China's space push. Outer space is not a wrestling ground, Liu Pengyu, spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in Washington, told Politico. The spokesman said that some US officials had spoken irresponsibly to misrepresent the normal and legitimate space endeavors of China. China always advocates the peaceful use of outer space, opposes the weaponization of and arms race in outer space, and works actively toward building a community with a shared future for mankind in the space domain, the statement added. China is looking to put down its first astronauts around the end of the decade, and we're now getting a glimpse of how this plan may play out. A next-generation crewed spacecraft and a lunar lander for the China National Space Administration appeared during a lecture by Wu Yansheng, chairman of China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation. It is the country's main space contractor and builder of spacecraft and Long March rockets. The pair of animated spacecraft are shown docking while orbiting the moon, before cutting to show an astronaut bearing a People's Republic of China flag descending from the lander onto the lunar surface, and later a pair of astronauts, a planted flag, and possibly a rover in the foreground. While just animations, there is substance behind them. CASC is known to be working on the various aspects needed to make a crewed lunar landing happen, with other senior space officials stating that a short-term lunar mission could be possible before 2030. A new generation rocket is being developed to launch the new crew spacecraft, while work is underway on a lunar lander. The country also has its own moon project in answer to NASA's Artemis program, known as the International Lunar Research Station. China completed its Tiangong space station in low Earth orbit in 2022 in what was a record year for Chinese launches. But the country clearly already has its sights on greater and more distant human spaceflight ambitions. Do you think China's discovery and exploration on the far side of the moon would be good enough, or would it cause an uprising with the United States? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.